Xabi Alonso. The Sunday Times has gone with that on their front page. Alonso set for 4-year contract to take charge at Chelsea, and the Sunday Telegraph's Matt Law says Chelsea players have been informed that Alonso will be their new head coach and are said to be excited by his appointment. While Chelsea have not promised Alonso full control, he'll be given a more meaningful role in the club's decision-making than some of his predecessors. Jackie, let me start with you. Are you surprised that Chelsea have got him, and are you surprised he's taken it?
No, not really. I think the surprise really is maybe that if he was going to come to the Premier League, the theory was to Liverpool, but I'm sure we'll be talking about Liverpool in due course. I quite like Rory Smith's take on it in The Observer today, where he described the appointment as surprisingly sensible for Chelsea, bearing in mind the last few appointments haven't necessarily been the case. It smacks of the Chelsea hierarchy realising where they've been going wrong. I think a lot of us wanted it to work for Liam Rosenior for a multitude of reasons. It just didn't, and the players themselves took matters into their own hands in terms of seeming to show up when they felt like it and turning it on when they felt like it, and you simply can't have that. So they need this new era of authority, and he will, by all accounts, be named as a manager rather than a head coach for the first time since Jose Mourinho. And it just really feels like at Chelsea they need the manager to be the one calling the shots. They have so much going on above with the 5 different sporting directors, which in itself is pretty extraordinary. But they need the manager, somebody who will command the respect of the dressing room, having won everything himself as a player and having already proved himself as a manager. Real Madrid, OK, we can kind of take that out and put it down to experience. There are reasons why it didn't go right there. But I think this is a really, really good appointment.
Jason, the headline in The Sun on Sunday is Blues and Twos, incoming boss Alonso's huge fix to fix emergency situation. Dan King's piece starts, there is no trophy to paper over the cracks of Chelsea's disastrous season, and the imminent appointment of Xabi Alonso will only be a sticking plaster unless the Blues owners are serious about a change of direction. This structure, this infamous structure, if you like, has not worked out well for his predecessors, and there have been many of them, let's be honest. Yeah. Why will this be different?
Because I think, as Jackie says, I mean, they've obviously shifted a little bit in terms of the way they're going to organise themselves. They've got a manager who's coming in as a manager. OK, what's interesting is Chelsea are briefing that they have decided to call him manager, that he's not asked to be manager. He was happy to be a head coach. Obviously, he's been a head coach at Real Madrid, head coach at Bayer Leverkusen. I think this is a different dimension in terms of the stature of the person who's coming into the club. I think there's an awful thing about Chelsea's structure is obviously it's not been working. I think they're not stupid people, though. You know, they will learn. And I think, obviously, we've talked about this before in the past, a lot of people coming into football, going to reinvent the wheel, going to change things. And obviously it needs to evolve. But there are certain things that obviously haven't worked at Chelsea that they need to remedy. Bringing somebody like Xabi Alonso in, I think they've really lucked out with him. I think he's a manager who can give them the kind of organisation, the kind of leadership that they've lacked in the past. They've got the balance all wrong in the past, and they seem to be readdressing that a little bit. I think Dan's take is a little bit over the top. I don't think it's a complete disaster at Chelsea. I think they have done some quite good stuff as well there. But I think something like Xabi Alonso coming in, it's definitely an appointment that they couldn't have done better, in my opinion. They absolutely could not have done better. And it's obviously partly circumstance, a little bit of luck, and a little bit of timing. And I think they've done well to get him.
Mark, look, how this season has gone, I mean, it's fallen way below expectations. They could be in a position where they don't even get European football for next season, having been the much vaunted world champions, if you like, last summer. Will this have told the owners this season in particular, like, there's the line in the sand. We need to change the way we do things, especially with how we recruit players?
Yeah, like Jason said, it's been a learning process, and credit to the owners. They've taken the lessons from this season and implemented the lessons. What I'm saying is that Xabi Alonso is a big manager, and they've moved away from their kind of previous route of hiring inexperienced coaches. Now, we all know that Rosenior was very inexperienced. Even Maresca held one full season as a manager when he was at Leicester. You know, Pochettino was the kind of in-between model, but he left after a year because he couldn't accept the recruitment policy. And prior to him, it was Graham Potter. So I think they've realised that if you want success, and success for Chelsea is being in the Champions League and winning trophies, so being out of Europe completely not only hits their prestige, it hits their bottom line as well. And these people are successful businessmen. They'll realise that to be successful, you have to get the right things done. They've made mistakes, they've corrected those mistakes. And Xabi Alonso, for me, is, a year ago, he was the hottest property in coaching, wasn't it? And Real Madrid had kind of held off Liverpool a year before to get Xabi Alonso. They realised that this was the guy. He basically stopped Bayern Munich winning endless Bundesliga titles. So, top manager, top coach. What happened at Real was, how do you explain it? He just went into a dressing room which has been uncontrollable for quite a long time. So, Chelsea getting one of the rising coaches in Europe is a player with great credentials as a player, rising star as a coach, and the players in that dressing room who basically brought down Liam Rosenior, the results brought him down, but they were part of those results, don't respect Xabi Alonso from day one. So Chelsea basically said to these players, right, you've got no excuses now. Your excuse last time was the manager wasn't up to your standards, and he wasn't. Liam Rosenior wasn't a Chelsea manager, but this guy is. So the players got no excuses, and Chelsea have basically said, right, you perform now because you've got a coach that you can't complain about.
Jason, you mentioned it before. How important is that line between head coach and manager, particularly at Chelsea?
Yeah, you want to make sure it's not just lip service being paid by giving them the title, but I think actually there's a recognition that the manager needs to have more input, especially in the recruitment side of things. That's where they've got it wrong, and obviously there's lots of rumours been going around about how much power the owner wields at Chelsea in terms of influencing the team and the squad and so on. Obviously had all the stuff before about the medical staff and the stipulations that were put on the head coach there, even in writing, in terms of actually what happens. I'm sure Xabi Alonso's clarified that a lot more as to what's going to happen in terms of the structure of the club and the first team. That's really the nub of the matter with Chelsea. It's getting those things right, getting the recruitment right as well. We obviously talked a lot about the imbalance in terms of just going for the younger players. They've already talked themselves about redressing that by bringing in some more experienced players, especially a centre half. So he'll play a huge part in that. But at the same time, he's also worked in similar systems to this. At Bayer Leverkusen and at Real Madrid, there were sporting directors. He didn't have the full managerial control, which very few people are going to get nowadays anyway. So he's walking into a situation which he's aware of. I think at Chelsea, there just seems to be so many chiefs. That's the problem, but I think they will try and streamline that a little bit.
To that point, I think Chelsea have got it on themselves to explain that a bit more, because they haven't got 5 sporting directors, they've got 5 people that do different jobs.
Yeah.
So just explain that a bit better, so people like us can't keep saying...
Lines of command, isn't it?
You've got 5 sporting directors, but they have different lines of responsibility. Recruitment, technical director, they have different roles. So say that and explain it so that we're not saying 5 sporting directors sounds ridiculous.
He's got a big job, hasn't he, in uniting the fan base as well, because the fans don't like what they've seen in terms of the structure of the